Hello everybody, it's EzraTime here. I'll come back to another movie review, and today we are going to be reviewing John Wick Chapter 2 again, leading up to John Wick Chapter 4, which is going to be released next Wednesday for me in Indonesian. And yeah, I think John Wick Chapter 2 is well, to start it off, I think it's a great sequel to the first one, and I did not expect John Wick to receive a sequel, in the first place, because the first movie again, it felt like a standalone movie, and when it was ended, I was like, okay, this is a great movie, but I don't expect to see a sequel. And then in 2017, John Wick Chapter 2 was released, and a lot of people are excited, and me myself, I was like, all right, okay, I watch it, but I'm not watching it on theaters. I'm watching it on DVD. And what I can say that it's a great sequel with a great world building, because this is the first time you hear the word high table, which eventually becomes the big thing in the John Wick franchise, and it's just crazy to me that in the first one the high table weren't exactly exist yet, in the story, but the second one really brings in the high table, despite the fact that you never actually see any of them until chapter 4, and I do think this is great, because when you see the John Wick world, you most likely see that the world could be built, around it, and it could be expanded even further. Like for example, in the first movie we see a coin, right, that actually work as a currency, I think, right? And now in the second movie we got a marker that basically when someone give you a marker, then you have to fulfill their wishes, unless that if you don't fulfill their wishes, then you're gonna be killed, and that pretty much brought in the main storyline and the main conflict for John Wick Chapter 2. And I think Chapter 2 started like 4 days after the event of the first movie, where John Wick basically go get the car, from Peter Stormare character, which is basically the brother of like Vigo from the first movie. And yeah, the movie started really great. You see John Wick in a car, and then eventually beat a bunch of people, in the well, in to get his car back basically. And I do think it's great, to see Keanu Reeves just like again doing their own stunt, right? And again, I'm really liking that the John Wick movie doesn't exactly have a shaky cam, And I know that shaky cam is like not really common anymore, I think, right? Because now I think people realize how bad shaky cam was, like look at the Bourne movie, for Christ's sake. I was like, yeah, it was so shaky cam and you have no idea what's going on. And I'm glad that John Wick actually just like the camera sits still, and then just see Keanu Reeves doing their own stunts, and I think it's great. um but John Wick doesn't kill Peter Stormare's character, he basically make a peace with him. Oh yeah, Abram Tarasov, so he doesn't kill Abram. He basically make peace with Abram, and then obviously Abram was like glad, because the Baba Yaga didn't kill him, and yeah, I think like I said before, the basically the marker basically brought the main conflict for this movie, where basically one of the I don't think he's a member of the highest table, but Santino Di Antonio, played by Ricardo Scamarcio, basically the Thailand Camorra, where he basically said that, well, John Wick has this marker to him that he needs to be fulfilled, but obviously John Wick was already retired, so it's like, no, I don't want to do this, and I think this was literally again 4 days after the after he gets the car. Was not 4 days, but like literally couple of hours after he gets the car back, and then Santino came and then he's like, hey John, you need to do this work for me. And then John was like, well, no, I don't want to do that. And which led to Santino blowing up John Wick's house. And that eventually leads to another conflict with him and John Wick, because, well, John Wick understandably really pissed, when, the house was like burned down, obviously. And he comes to Winston, the manager for the New York Continental, and then he basically, well, remind them of the rules, and then eventually John Wick has to do this mission for Santino Di Antonio, where he has to go to Rome to kill his sister, Gianna Di Antonio. And yeah, so John Wick again, he has no choice, so he has to do it. He goes to Rome and basically prepare everything. And this is one of my favorite scenes in John Wick Chapter 2, and it's not even an action sequences, but just seeing John Wick, walking around to Rome, and then just he gets a clothing, obviously, and then obviously he get the gun. I think the gun sequences, it might be my favorite one, like wasn't the sequences, but it's like John Wick picking up a gun. It's like asking the sommelier, like, which one is the best gun, like, oh, I recommend this one, and then I need something robust, precise, like can you recommend anything for the end of the day? Something big, bold, like may I suggest the Benelli M4. Like I really like that exchange between the Sommelier and John Wick, because they both professional, and I feel like I really like their performance a lot. Like they're clearly having a fun time filming that scene, and John Wick, I'm glad that John Wick is not like the kind of guy who's like sees a bunch of gun and then he just like, I'm gonna take everything, because if this was like a typical action movie, then yeah, the main hero is gonna be like, I'm gonna take every single thing, but no, John Wick was again professional assassin, so like he picks the gun, he asking for recommendation and even asking for desserts, which is a knife. um and yeah, I really like that sequence a lot, or like that scene a lot. um and obviously we get to the Rome, and then John Wick has to kill Gianna, and then eventually he meets with Cassian, which is played by Common, and basically a gunfight, another gunfight break out in the in Rome, party. I think it's not exactly a catacomb, but it's like there's a like a club party basically, even though they're not in a club, but it's like it's a recreation for the first movie, obviously. And I think it's great. And then after that we get to see the catacomb fight, where John Wick basically places a gun here and there to prepare. And I do think that's a great sequences, because again, I mean, John Wick right now has a bulletproof like suit, which is this is the first time where the bulletproof suit got introduced in the movie, because in the first one, like, it's literally just like a bulletproof vest, it's like the first one is still realistic, I guess, but in this one they try to add this plot where like you can actually sew the bulletproof like vest on the suit, on John Wick's suit, and I think that's a great plot device in my opinion. I know that people might maybe didn't like that, but I don't know. I was okay with it, and that's become the John Wick, like the John Wick style basically, where he's just gonna get shot, but and then you realize that, oh shit, like the suit that he's wearing is actually bulletproof, so like he was fine. It's still quite painful, obviously, but it's still like it's fine, and that's pretty much become the template for John Wick's character, and I'm loving it, to be honest with you guys. I don't care that maybe that's not that realistic, but I don't really care, to be honest. It's fun. It really works for the scene, especially in the catacomb sequences where he got shots a couple of times, I think, but because again the bulletproof suit, he was fine. And yeah, the gun sequence is amazing, like when he gets the Benelli M4 and just like start blasting people, and just like pinning a guy to the wall and then just like shooting a bullet through the chest. I was like, wow, that is amazing. Again, the gun sequences is just great. It's John Wick, is what you expected. And yeah, it's really really fun. But after that, John Wick basically meet with Common again. Where Common crashed him with a car again, and then eventually a fight between John Wick and Cassian. Broke out. And then I think it's one of the intense fight scene ever. Because I think this is the first time where I got a bit worried for John Wick, because the first one, yeah, you got Krill, I think, played by Daniel Bernhardt character that basically kicks John Wick's ass. But in this one, like, you got Cassian, and I think Cassian is much more better fighter, maybe, in this scene right here. But maybe because John Wick is already like tired from all the gunfight, So to be fair, gotta give him that. And I think John Wick just basically just trying to get back to the Continental, maybe, because like John Wick is sort of like fighting Cassian. Like he tried to run away, but obviously Cassian managed to get the upper hand, But before Cassian can kill him, they both crash to the Continental Hotel, and obviously no businesses are conducted on the Continental ground, And yeah, they basically have to stop fighting, And after that, after the job is finished, obviously the marker are now complete, So John Wick can go and after Santino D'Antonio if he want to, which pretty clear that he's gonna do that, And basically Winston also like warn Santino like to not do this, to not like provoke John Wick even further, because like he's gonna come for you, he's gonna kill you. The Baba Yaga is coming for you. And basically we go back to New York again, where John Wick fight a bunch of assassins, because there is like a $7 million bounty on his head. And I don't think it's a great sequences again, maybe it could be edited a little bit better, because you see the John Wick damages after he gets shot in the stomach, and then like that he's gonna survive that fight, So I kind of wish that maybe that one sequences could be edited a little bit better, just to see John Wick kill the lady first, before he get to the other two guys, in the subway, where he basically killed them with a pencil, and great, this is the first time we see John Wick kill someone with a pencil, because in the first one it's such a awesome thing to say, but you never actually see that, so this is like the first time we actually see John Wick kill someone with a pencil, and hopefully in chapter 4 we get to see John Wick using a pencil again, hopefully. But I guess we'll see. But yeah, the fight scene is great again. It's intense. It's well choreographed, And again, the editing could be a little bit better, but it was like fine, It's still good. And then John Wick met Cassian again, and then they have these ridiculous sequences where John Wick and Cassian basically walking through the subway, and then like they just like shoot their guns, and then for some reason no one can hear the guns, despite the fact that their gun is like wearing a suppressor, I think. Sorry, suppressor. That's what it calls, right? But you can still hear like the guns like firing, like that doesn't mean people are like deaf for that, and that scene was just like funny to me. I know it was supposed to be badass, but it was funny because nobody is like reacting to the gunshot, but then again, it's New York City, so I don't know. We'll see what happens. But yeah, it was ridiculous, but it was fun nevertheless, and then we get to see John Wick and Cassian fight again in the subway, in the train basically. And this time John Wick managed to get the upper hand. He wants the battle, like he basically gives Cassian a chance to live, basically, because like it's a professional courtesy, and yeah, I don't think we're gonna see Cassian again, sadly, but hopefully he will return maybe someday, or maybe he just dead in that train, who knows. But yeah, after that, John Wick managed to get help from one of the Bowery King's man, and then this is the first time we see Lawrence Fishburne as the Bowery King. And obviously this is the first time we see Keanu Reeves and Lawrence Fishburne again, I think, ever since The Matrix, and I think it's great. So that's why I think, to me, John Wick is like an alternate universe for The Matrix for me, because like again, you got some cast member from The Matrix and then into this movie. You got obviously Keanu Reeves, you got Lawrence Fishburne, right? And then you got Chad Stahelski, because again, Chad Stahelski was also in The Matrix, where he was a stuntman, I think, for Keanu Reeves in the subway fight, with Agent Smith, I think. So I think it's great, to see again Keanu and Lawrence again interacting with one another. It was great. And when I first watched the movie, I did not know that Lawrence Fishburne was in this movie, So when he was first appear, I was like really surprised to see him in this movie, and it was so charming, like as the Bowery King. And it's just insane that this like homeless people is actually part of the like a assassin, like a part of the mercenary groups, basically, living in under New York City, and I think that was insane to me that that was actually what's going on in the John Wick universe. But I love it, to be honest, because thanks to the concept of the world, and then also thanks to Lawrence Fishburne, I think he was great as the Bowery King. And John Wick basically asking Bowery King for help, to kill Santino. And then at first, the Bowery King was like, we don't need to help you, because there is a 7 million bounty. We could just like get the money for ourselves. But John Wick was like, well, you want a war or you just want to give me a gun, And Lawrence Fishburne has this great line where he was like, somebody please get this man a gun, And he gave John Wick 7 bullets because $7 million, right? And then we get to the final fight scene, basically, where John Wick basically kill again a bunch of people. Where he tries to get to the Santino D'Antonio. And yeah, I'll be honest that maybe the action sequences get a little bit too repetitive in this movie, mainly because it's just like a gunfight, a bunch of gunfight, right? And yeah, it's a good execution, on the action sequences, but I feel like yeah, it could get a little bit repetitive, and I did feel that when I watched the movie, but I'm still loving it, But this is the time where I was like, okay, it's get a little bit like repetitive in my opinion, for the gunfight sequences, But then, needless to say, the scene does lead to a cool sequences in the glass, which I'm pretty sure it might be a reference to Bruce Lee Enter the Dragon, where Bruce Lee basically fight Han in that glass room, It might be a reference to that, who knows? But it was great, to see like John Wick try to navigate the place, and then try to kill a bunch of the henchmen, but also try to be careful because everything is around him is like a mirror, It's a really cool sequences, It's really well shot, It looks great. And we get to see a fight scene between John Wick and this character played by Ruby Rose, I think, Ares. So yeah, John Wick and Ares fight, like yeah, I mean John Wick get the upper hand, it's really cool. I mean, Ruby Rose in this movie, I think she's cool, like she doesn't speak, because I think she can't speak, like her character, I mean, so that he used like a sign language, yeah, it's a pretty cool fight scene between the two of them. It wasn't that insane, but it was fine, it was good enough in my opinion. And eventually after that, John Wick came to the continental New York, where Santino basically reside there to protection, obviously, because again, you can't kill anybody on the continental ground. But John Wick, because he was like really mad, he killed him anyway. He killed Santino D'Antonio in the continental ground, and because of that, he was excommunicado, and his bounty was doubled to $40 million. And yeah, I think that's how the John Wick chapter 2 ends, where John Wick basically had to run away from a bunch of assassins, that's going to after him now because the account is going international. And I remember the first time watching this ending, I was like so hyped because again, like I think John Wick chapter 2 is like a great sequel, like even though it might be the weakest one compared to the trilogy that I watched right now, but I still think this is a great sequel. You get to see the world building, and hell, chapter 2 introduced like a lot of stuff that becomes the John Wick template. You got the high table, you got the bulletproof suit, like literally, like it was introduced. All of them are introduced in John Wick chapter 2. So I think, and the fact that that kind of element is still carried to chapter 4, it was like wow, it's amazing. And yeah, I remember seeing the ending for the first time. Remembering really really hyped for John Wick chapter 3 because again the ending was like so hype in my opinion because John Wick is like running away and then there's a bunch of phone just like ringing, basically getting the contract, for killing John Wick for $40 million, and he has to run away with his pit bull dog, and heading back to New York, and that's how the movie ends. And yeah, it's a great sequel in my opinion. I think Chad Stahelski nails it again, and of course the writer himself, the creator, Derek Kolstad, is also amazing. He's basically solo writing the first two movies for John Wick, He's not coming back for John Wick Chapter 4, sadly, but well, I still think it's gonna be great in my opinion, but I guess we'll see. But yeah, that was John Wick Chapter 4. Again, great directing, great music by Tyler Bates and Joel J. Richter once again. Obviously, Keanu Reeves is amazing as always, doing his own stunts. Lawrence Fishburne is charismatic, and yeah, I do think this is a solid sequel. It might be the weakest one again to among the John Wick trilogy, but I'm still grateful that this movie exists, obviously, because again, introduces is expanding the world of John Wick, and I think it does a great job on that. And bring back a lot of like template for the John Wick character, the bulletproof suit, and stuff like that, the high table, right? And it's like, yeah, I think this is a great sequel. But if I'm being objective, then yeah, it might be the weakest one among the trilogy. But that's just me. Who knows? So yeah, what do you guys think about John Wick Chapter 2? Like where you guys are ranking it? Do you think this is like the weakest one among the John Wick trilogy? Because that's how I feel, despite the fact that I also love the movie, But compared to Chapter 3 and Chapter 1, I think this one it might be the weakest one. But that's just me. What are your opinions? Do you think this is the weakest one for you, or maybe this is like the best one for you? And yeah, and if you guys enjoyed this review, then leave a like, comment, subscribe, share the videos, useful stuff, and stay tuned for more John Wick review, John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum, I don't know when, but again, I'm doing this for preparing John Wick Chapter 4, which is going to be released next week, and hopefully I can get a ticket to watch that in Wednesday, but I guess we'll see, again, because I feel like a lot of people is going to watch John Wick Chapter 4, which is understandable enough, but yeah, guys, that's my review, and again, I really hope you guys enjoyed. Stay tuned for more videos in the future, and I will see you guys in the next one then. Bye!